Hi guys, welcome to my channel where we talk books, writing and making money from the arts. I also share snippets of life as a published author based in Kenya. I have just recorded for you a video about the unboxing of the books. We just came from the printer, so I'm really excited about that. That's a separate video which I think has already gone out. So if you've not watched that, please go and watch that. I'm looking at my computer because I actually wrote down a few notes about this video. For those of you who are not aware, I actually have 5 published books. 2 of them are novels. The Duel in the Savanna is a book that I actually share on my blog. And so other than that one, the others are all traditionally published. And by traditional published, I mean where you write a manuscript and then you shop around for a publisher and then they literally publish it for you. I don't want to go into the details of the difference between traditional publishing and self-publishing. I think that's best done in a separate video. But this being my first time, on this rodeo called self-publishing, I just wanted to share just a little bit of the insights I have gotten, the things I think we've gotten right, the things which didn't go as planned, so that if there are writers out there who are thinking of also doing this, hopefully this can help you out. Let me first start with my favorite part. I have never done a book trailer before, and I think that was my favorite part of this. Oh, that was so much fun. Just writing the script, of really summarizing the story because you're the one who knows, and then sharing that with a videographer. And then, of course, choosing the song. But, you don't really, you can imagine what it will be like, but you still are not quite sure what the final outcome would be. As I said, this is the first time I'm actually doing this. But wow, I think that's my favorite. It came out so well. You guys really seem to love it. If you haven't already watched it, go and watch that. Let me talk about the second point, which is editing. Editing when you're a self-published writer is definitely way less stressful than when you're working with a traditional publisher, for the simple reason that I think because it's a smaller team. It was really just me, the editor, who is Benson Shiholo, who I would unhesitatingly recommend to anyone. He's just so easy to work with. He's so hardworking. He really picks up on things you wouldn't even think to check. And then, of course, the designer. It was just the 3 of us. A lot of it was done remotely, which was very convenient. So not sitting in traffic and, or just having to haul across town to go and have meetings. My experience of traditional publishing, actually, this is the bit I've always dreaded the most and writers can relate to this. It's one thing when you have a story in your head, and then, you put it down to paper. At that point, it's just you and the computer. Or for those who like to write, it's just you and the notebook. But then once you decide to share it with the world, then, of course, you open up yourself to all sorts of criticisms. And I tell you, editors can be harsh. Like, take, for instance, one of the first things they usually do is share a book report. And again, without going into too much detail, because if you guys want, I can actually do a separate video on this. The first thing you get is a book report, which is supposed to tell you, the strengths and the weaknesses and the areas where they think there are gaps, basically the things they think you should improve on. And you find that you can get an 8-page report, and 7.5 pages is just full of the things that are not right or the things you should change. And then buried somewhere on the last page is they will put a very cautiously optimistic line, something like, we think this book has potential, we think it has commercial viability. And I always ask, why could you lead with that? And they always laugh, but, so yeah. So as I said, when you're editing, or maybe I've just gotten very, very good at actually writing a decent first draft. So the editor, we call it panel beating. Think of it like a car, and you want to panel beat it and then give it, a paint job or whatever it is, so that you have a nice, shiny, polished a car that's almost brand new. That's the same thing that happens with a manuscript. And don't let anybody lie to you. There is nobody who writes a perfect manuscript. I know because editors have told me sometimes they get professors of literature or whatever who have PhDs and they don't want you to even change a full stop. But I've not reached there yet, and I hope I will never reach there yet. What I know for a fact is a good editor can really, really help to improve your work. So for me, editing was one of the, it was good. I enjoyed that. Printing was an interesting experience. I think for the reason that I've never actually had to deal with printers before. Again, when you're dealing with a traditional publisher, what it means is your work as a writer ends when you proofread the book, the final manuscript, and then it goes off to the printer. So after that, the publisher does everything. They make sure, they negotiate with the printer, they go and collect the books. And if you're fortunate enough to have a book launch, because most publishers, at least in Kenya, will actually not pay for a book launch, especially for a novel. Normally, they reserve those for celebrities like MG Wawero, as I explained, the book we launched last year. And also, Kiraito Murongi. I just showed you the dummy in the last video. So all of that, the publisher takes care of. But now, as a self-published writer, now I'm having to do all of that, and it's been some interesting lessons. For printing, the main thing I'll say is I was a bit surprised by the sheer variety of the quotes we were getting. I mean, this is the same book, you're giving them the same specs, and I got anywhere from 300 to 500 to 450 to, at the top end, 1,000 bob. And I did wonder about that because I was thinking, the paper is the same and all of that. But from asking them, as I said, at one point, we actually spent the better part of a day just moving from one printer to another in industrial area to just really try and get the best deal for this book. And my takeaway from that experience was our taxes are really high, which is part of the reason I think printing a book is so expensive. And B, the war in Russia has affected everything. There's a book I was walking around with. I don't have it right now because the editor still has it, but it is called Dare to Defy by Peter Shompole. It's a beautiful book, and if you can get hold of it, please buy it. But what I loved about that book, the quality, the cover, the paper, I think they were calling it like matte paper, and that book was printed in India. I think it came out in 2018, I believe. So I always find, for me to carry a book and tell them, okay, this is like the kind of quality I want. And everyone was just telling me, first thing, this paper is not even available in the market, forget about it. And even if it were, it'll push up the cost of your book to ridiculous amounts. So obviously that means, first and foremost, I want my book to be affordable. I don't want to be the kind of person who writes a book that's read by 10 people because nobody can afford it. I really want to put more books into the hands of more people. So for me, it was really about getting the best quality at an affordable price. And I think we got that from the printer that we got. But yeah, you have to do the lead work as a writer. You really need to go and sit in rooms with printers and carry a copy of a book you like, and also ask them to show you, the work they've actually done. And don't be afraid to ask for recommendations, because the printer we actually ended up with was recommended by the publisher of my other books, was also recommended by three other people. So that's why I even felt confidence in giving Mr. Rao his work. Because one of the things that kept bugging me, as I said, because I'm doing this myself, if you're published by a traditional publisher, they do everything. They decide the cover, the specs of the book, they decide, how they're going to launch it, but they also, and this is important, they set the retail price of the book. Now I had to make that decision for myself. And for the longest time, I just kept thinking and wondering, until my editor now gave me the pro tip. Okay. The first thing, I already knew this. The printing cost of a book contributes the highest percentage of the retail price of a book. The average I hear is about 35 to 40%. And here again, just to be clear, I'm talking about the Kenyan book market. I don't know what happens in Uganda or Tanzania or in America or in Europe. I'm talking about the Kenyan book market. Then the other thing you have to take into account is you're going to sell your books through a retailer or a reseller. And that is, it can be a brick and mortar, bookshop like Prestige Booksellers or Textbook Center or Bookstop at the Yaya or Nuria, for instance, which has both a physical presence. I think in the CBD, they have an outlet, and they also have an online store. I think Prestige and also Textbook Center, you can also order online or even via social media, and they'll deliver it right to your door or to your office. So that's become very, very convenient because people don't always have the time to actually take yourself to a bookshop just to buy one book. So Retailers, of course, are different, but again, this is just a guideline. They will normally take about 30% commission. So whatever for instance, if your book is 1,000 bob, it means 300. You'll actually go to the bookshop, so you're left with 700. And from that 700, then you'd have to deduct the cost of printing. And now you understand why it is so critical to try and get the cost of printing to as low as possible without compromising the quality. So it's not just about, you can go for a very cheap and then the book just falls apart, within days of someone buying it. And you don't want that. You really don't want that. But coming to what the pro tip my Benson Shiholo actually told me is, once you know the printing cost, you do ×3 or ×4 to actually get the retail price of the book, how much to sell the book at. And that now gives you a comfortable cushion where you're actually able to deduct the retailer's commission and you're able to deduct the printing cost, and you're left with something that makes a sense. And this again comes back to, now I understand from a first-hand perspective. Publishers have been really talking about years and lobbying the government to, for instance, remove VAT on books, because that's a whole 16%. That's a video for another day, because I said KRA has a big appetite, and they tax at the printing stage whatever you quoted is plus VAT, and then again when you're selling the book, again at that point that price includes VAT. So, but again, that's a video. I want to explore a little bit about that, because there's something called input VAT. So I need to know whether you can deduct input VAT from. Anyway, I will explain that in a later video once I've talked to a couple of accountants. Okay, let's talk about distribution. This one is a work in progress, so to speak. It's like a moving target. Right now, you can, of course, pre-order the book in Nuria, which implies, of course, that even after the pre-order period, you will be able to buy it. You can order it online, and they deliver anywhere in Kenya. They can even deliver it abroad. That's how efficient they are. I'm working to get my book into the other outlets where my other books are sold. It just makes sense, because I'm imagining someone who is discovering me for the first time and they're going there to buy, any of my books, and it would be nice if they can say, are the others available? And I already mentioned Textbook Center, Prestige, and Bookstop, Yaya. Now, let me touch a little bit on marketing. And this, I think, by marketing, I'm also going to include planning a book launch as part of that. I wouldn't lie, I think this has been the most challenging aspect of this whole process. I know a lot of writers say the writing is the hard part, and they look forward to doing the whole publishing process, and then, working with, the event is supposed to be fun, but for me, honestly, it's been a challenge. There are a million decisions that need to be made. I have a newfound respect, let me just say that, for event planners. And I think if I was to do this again, I would definitely hope that I can afford to hire a planner, because they'd make things a lot easy. So what we are mostly doing, because of our tight budget, most of it has gone into the actual publishing and the printing of the book. Buying ads is out of the question. So we are mostly going to use social media, which is why for us the launch event was so important, and putting together something where you bring together your friends, your relatives, people who already know you, who know your work, will hopefully buy the book. And while they are there, they can actually, be, shouting about it. They can take photographs and just really on all their platforms, basically. It's like a small army of marketers. And then even afterwards, we can actually use some of that footage for marketing, which is the other reason I'm here on YouTube, because I know some people think, why would a writer be on YouTube? But here's the thing. The two things I've discovered, because I have a keen interest in like digital marketing and just the trends that are happening on the internet. The fastest growing platforms are visual based, which is like images like Instagram, and video-based platforms like YouTube. So you really cannot afford not to be there. And as I keep saying, it's an easier conversation to go where the people are and tell them, I have this book, and then I have this other book, and then direct them to your website. Because of course the website remains a critical part. That's the real estate where all my work is, and it's like a sort of historical record of everything that I've done. So that's it in terms of marketing. I wanted to touch a little bit on the invites, because that was an interesting experience. Initially, I wanted to do, first I decided to do a save the date, for the simple reason that December is a really busy month. And you want to tell people early enough before they commit themselves to something else. There are also weddings, rurashios, graduations. There's a lot that's happening. But you may not have locked in the details of, the venue and the timing and, the other details like that. So the idea of sending the save the date is just to alert people there's something coming and the main invite will follow. I think maybe in Kenya we're not used to that because we got all sorts of questions about, okay, so what is this? What it's about? It was just interesting. The other thing is the invite. By the way, the save the date and the invite were both designed by Fred Tantuo of Blue Eyes Limited. He did a fantastic job. It was really, really nice. Why I specifically want to touch on the invite is initially I wanted to do your typical invite, and I will insert a picture here of one I really, really liked from a few years ago. I didn't actually attend, but I saw it on internet and I saved it. But then I started thinking, the whole someone mentioned what is the theme of the event. I mean, I just wanted to share a little bit give a little sneak peek into the world of what the book is about. The main character, Anna, is a newspaper journalist. And the book is set in a media house. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to actually have the main invite as a newspaper front page? Which was a good idea in theory, but here is where it got tricky. Fred did such a fantastic job on that invite. Most people, including my sister Aggie, thought I had actually been featured in a real newspaper. Then I think what I should have done is, because the template I had seen is you put a big heading, you are invited, across the top, and then maybe you have a subheading of, silencing and a book launch, so that it becomes clear that is the invite. But I think anybody who took the time to read even just the first paragraph of that invite, it was clear this is the invitation that I'm inviting you people to. But I guess some people did not. So again, we got a lot of questions. Again, like, oh, that was the invite. Really? Oh, I thought it was just you being featured in the newspaper or something like that. And initially I was a little worried because I kept thinking, wow, Kenyans, kama hamtaki kusoma invite na kitabu je? But then I was like, no, it's fine. Silencing Anna will find its readers. I have no doubt about that. But I just wanted to touch on that because that was an interesting sort of reaction. So with those 7 key areas, I think I want to end this video here. I'll probably do a follow-up video in a couple of months. Maybe I'll have more insights to share, especially about the distribution bit and the marketing and just my experience with the pre-order campaign, because it's still too early to tell about that. So thank you for watching as always, and I'll catch you in the next video. Subscribe, share, like, comment, and remember, whatever you do, whatever life throws at you, you keep on dancing. Bye.